These are all top cubers, so they must be doing something right. Whilst they each have different methods of practice, the fundamental ideas are consistent throughout all three. I have done the research so you don't have to, and in this video I will be going over the most efficient and result-orientated methods of practice that the top cubers use. This is Tymon, and he has a very interesting method which I think anyone can benefit from. It is pretty obvious that everyone agrees solving is the best part of practice, and realistically no one likes spending ages doing deliberate practice. Here's where Tymon's idea comes in. He spends 2 hours practicing algorithms and then 2 hours solving. This is much more than I think you should be doing, so maybe cut that down to half an hour of practicing and half an hour solving. This is a great method as it ensures that you don't just do deliberate practice, as this is very boring. Instead, you choose how long you want to do this for and then reward yourself with something more enjoyable, like solves. By doing this, you can instantly begin integrating the new skills you have just learned straight into your solves. For example, I recently learnt the RA and RB perms. This took quite a while, but I made sure to do some solves afterwards. As this is a fairly common algorithm, it came up in my solves often, and to begin with, it wasn't efficient at all due to my recognition being very slow. But the more I integrated it, the better I got. Within just half an hour of solving, I came across the 2 new algorithms at least 10 times. If I had just spent the total time of 1 hour doing the deliberate practice, I would get way too bored and stop practicing for the rest of the day. This means that next time I picked up a cube and did some solves would be the next day. By that time, the muscle memory wouldn't have started to help, and therefore I would be wasting a lot of time being stuck and trying to remember the algorithms that I learned the day before. Whereas with Tymon's method, I had a head start on efficient muscle memory as I was already consistently using these algorithms in my solve from day one. This is also a method that Felix uses, as he recommends spending 50% of your time doing deliberate practice and 50% doing solves. Speaking of Felix, he finds that one of the best ways to learn something is to try and figure it out yourself before you decide to go to a tutorial. He believes that this ensures that you understand the concept of a new idea before it is used in solves, therefore meaning that you have a lot more knowledge of what you are trying to do than if you just conceded straight to a video about the new method. An example of this is the keyhole insert for F2L. I found that lots of top cubers were using this method when it came to the first F2L pair, where you had a corner or an edge in the correct place and already orientated. In this situation, you can find the pair and then insert it like this. This means that you would reduce the time that you would normally have to take taking the piece out and then pairing it and then inserting it. When I first came across this idea, I tried to learn it myself, and for the most part, this worked really well. I fully understood what was going on with each of the pieces, and the extra time taken allowed me to make up time later in the process, where I would ordinarily be stuck trying to understand someone else's explanation on YouTube. I did still watch videos after, which managed to reinforce what I had learned and also enhance the knowledge, but I am so glad that I did it this way, as it benefited me in the long run. So we know from what I mentioned earlier that Felix likes to spend 50% of time doing solves. Well, there is a very good reason for this. He says that thinking during solves will massively interrupt the time and make your solves so much slower and less fluid. This means that he recommends doing solves as it will drill in skills to make them faster, ensuring that in the future you won't have to spend as long thinking. Felix has said that deliberate practice can include just solves, as it is a great way of improving your knowledge and application of the skills within the cube. This means that despite popular belief, deliberate practice doesn't have to be boring. We can link this to Max Park's belief, which is don't think, just solve. This makes perfect sense, as if you use your muscle memory, your solves will be significantly faster than if you had to pause and remember every part of the solve. This next one is one of the more common ideas, but repetitive practice can enforce good habits. Yet if you have bad habits, this type of practice will only make them grow stronger and make them harder to combat later when you realise how detrimental they actually are. This is why Tymon recommends that you slow down your solves and focus on fluidity. This ensures that you are making the correct decisions throughout the solve and therefore enhances the good habits whilst eliminating the bad ones. You probably already know this, but fluidity is one of the most important aspects of Tymon's solves. Whilst he still has insane turning speeds, he also prioritizes prioritises ensuring that the turns are as smooth as possible, which allows for a much faster solve. This is one of the things that I have analysed from Tymon's solves. Speaking of which, he thinks that newer cubers aren't learning enough from the top cubers. When he was learning to become as fast as he is now, he spent lots of time looking at the best cubers to see what they were doing well. He thinks that comparing your solves to theirs and seeing what you are doing well and where you need to improve is one of the best ways to get better at cubing. Learning from the best is one of the most efficient ways of improving, as it ensures you are keeping up to date with all the new concepts that come from cubing. A smaller tip is that all of these top cubers are using some of the best speed cubes on the market. If you want any of the best cubes released, then make sure to go to speedcubing.org, who sponsor me. They are an amazing cube company based in the UK, so make sure to check them out. The final piece of advice that I learned from Tymon is that you should consider learning dual neutrality rather than full color neutrality. There are two main reasons for this, starting with the fact that it reduces the amount of time you have to spend looking for which side you have to start on. If you are fully color neutral, you have to check 6 sides and choose which one is the fastest. But with dual neutrality, you only have to check 2. This means that you can have more time left over in inspection to spend planning the first couple of stages of the solve. The other reason Tymon recommends this is that it can act as a saviour in a bad solve. What I mean by this is that in some solves, you will take a look and realise that white is really bad. In this situation, you would normally have to settle for it and just accept that your solve wouldn't be the best. However, if you could just turn to yellow, then you would have a much higher chance of finding a better starting colour, which means inevitably your solve would end up being faster.